I'm an addict named Rocco. And you know, it's really nice to look down on you people for a while. I'm real grateful to be clean and be alive, and I believe that's what Narcotics Anonymous has given me, a life I never thought possible. I can remember sitting here over 6 years ago, and I made one of my goals was I wanted to speak at one of our conventions, and by the blessings of the people in my life, you guys, and the great Creator, here I am today. So if you guys would give me a second, I'd like to pray and get me out of the way, and maybe God will lead us where we'll go tonight. Okay. I won't talk about using I earned my seat. I believe most of us earned our seat. I don't think I need to qualify. I believe when you get here, you didn't get here being a choir boy or a choir girl or whatever. You know, I believe when we get here, we're in trouble and it's life and death. And that's what I believe our disease wants us. It wants us dead. I've seen so many people come here and play with this disease that are no longer here today. And I always remember in that moment of silence of those people that, that died in vain, because there is a better way to live. And we found it here. Isn't that a blessing? It's just unbelievable when I think about the lost dreams that have been awakened for me. This is a dream. I never dreamed I'd be able to get up and talk in front of a couple hundred people and share my story. But you guys gave me the ability to do that. I grew up down in the southern coal fields of West Virginia. My dad was an Italian, and my mom was full-blooded Cherokee, so you can imagine what type of blood I have. I grew up from a dysfunctional family, but death hit my family early. My mom and dad both died when I was 10 years old. My dad was a football coach, and my mom was just a bitch. That's what my dad said. No, I love my mom. I was a mama's boy, so I got the right to say that. My parents were divorced at 5 years old, and one of the things that molded my life for many years was an experience I had when I was 7 years old. My dad was an alcoholic. He was an abusive alcoholic, and 7 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night. My mother was screaming, and I come out of my bedroom, and my dad had my mom down on the floor trying to rip her clothes off. And she said, "Rocco, please help me." There happened to be a lead pipe in the corner. I took that pipe, and I wore my dad's ass out with it. We do some things when adrenaline kicks in, and I remember that. And I believe women are our foundation of our society and should be treated with respect. One of the things I realized too was the next morning, my Italian grandmother calls my mom and says, Chapman, who was my dad, said he wants to see Rocco down at the house. And my mom said, "You go down and see your dad." I thought, well, what are you talking about? I just beat the hell out of him the night before. So I go to my grandmother's house, and I remember coming in the door, and I had, she was the one that raised me after my mom and dad died. And she said, "Come on in." And she always called me John Rocco. John's my first name, Rocco's my middle name. Most people think it's a nickname. It's part of my name. And when she called me in the room, my dad told me to come toward him. And I was a small kid. I wasn't a very big kid. And my dad hugged me and told me he loved me and that I did the right thing. And that allowed me to realize that my dad wasn't as bad as I always thought he was. My mom died in May of '65 of a heart attack, and I went to live with my father, and my father died in September 7th in the middle of a football game. He was head football coach at Madison County, Virginia, had a heart attack and died that day. So what molded my life, what I always like about the steps, and I don't know, I'm sure you guys have had the same experience, was there's always something that comes out in our four-step that we realize that molded us for so many years to live on the other side, I think, on the dark side. I can remember being at my grandmother's house, and it was a wake, and down in the coal fields they had the wakes at their homes, And I'm in front of my father's casket, and I'm crying. Here I am 10 years old, and I got no parents. I don't know what the hell's going on. And I remember my Italian grandmother shaking me and telling me, you got to grow up and be a man, son. You can't cry. And see, that molded my life for so many years. And today, I'll be honest with you, I cry. I have emotions and feelings, and you guys taught me that. And I think it's so cool sometimes when I can have that expression. Sometimes we think as men that we got to be big, bad, and tough. Well, big, bad, and tough always got me a lot of years in prison. And I wasn't big, bad, and tough because there's always somebody a little tougher. So that was a great experience for me in my four-step when that came out. That molded a part of who I thought I had to be. One of the things I'll tell you about growing up in a coal mining community is that you're always compared to your father. My father was a hell of a football player, and I was a pretty good football player myself. And I remember I rushed one night for over 230 yards and scored 5 touchdowns. And so we always, typical small town, we'd go to the barbershop on Saturday morning, and, most of us can get patted on the back if you played well. If you didn't play well, you didn't go because you knew it's going to get your ass kicked, So I go in the barbershop, I'm thinking, yeah, man, they're going to really pat me on the back. And I was in the barbershop waiting to get mine, and the guy looked up and he said, Chapman, your dad rushed for 290 yards and scored 6 touchdowns. See, because that started that less than. I was never good enough. And I carried that for so many years, and I believed that, My family ran the political machine in Mingo County. And if most people know about Mingo County, it was the county that voted on the voting machines. It would have took 7 days to vote that many people. That's how politics ran. And I could do anything I want, and they always took me home and locked everybody else's asses up. And I lived 2 separate lives growing up. I was a bag man. I went around and picked up bootleg and prostitution money at taverns for my uncle who ran the business. And I thought I was the shit. Well, that shit gave me many years in prison lately because he wasn't able to help me out when they got me fairly, One of the things I'll talk about, too, is I was blessed with a great education. And, we always talk about knowledge is power. Knowledge is not the power. It's the application of the knowledge that gives you the power. And that's certainly true in our fellowship with step work. You can do all the writing and everything you want, but if you don't apply it in your life, my experience tells me it ain't worth the damn paper, what the cost of the paper it's written on. I've been around this fellowship for a long time. I've had I can tell you a lot of things not to do. I married a newcomer with a couple years clean. And I can sadly say today that she's still in federal prison. So my experience tells you, stay out of the newcomer's pants. Because this is my experience, and I'll put a disclaimer. You may have a different one, that's okay because we allow that. But it's my experience is give them a chance to have an opportunity to recover in their fellowship. And that goes both sides. Women stay out of the men's pants. Yeah. See, now the men are clapping, This is equal opportunity. One of the things I want to talk about is that I can tell you about how many times I've been here and stayed here for years clean. One of the things I always struggle with is that I would do a conditional surrender. I would get here and I would surrender everything but money and sex. God, you can have it all, but I got to have the money and the sex. And it got my ass loaded after years clean numerous times. One of the things I want to say, when you finally become beaten, you become willing. When I got here this time, I had just pissed dirty for my federal PO, knew I was going back to prison, and was living in a Union Mission homeless. Desperation, degradation, whatever you want to call it. I was experiencing it. Hopelessness for sure. But see, I'd been fortunate enough. I'd been exposed to Narcotics Anonymous, and I knew there was a better way to live. I knew people that were still clean, that was clean when I'd been around here before. I served on a convention subcommittee for several years in the 90s. Service-related recovery will not keep you clean. Step work and application of the spiritual principles will keep you clean. Of course, if you don't pick dope up, you'll never get high. Yeah. That's it, no matter what. And when I saw that as our convention topic, I wrote some letters home from prison, and at the end of it, I said, staying clean no matter what. And I sort of think it's great that God gave me an opportunity to share at the No Matter What convention. I got clean in the Union Mission. I go to one meeting a week while I was there. It was one of these, religious homeless shelters. I got 2 religious services a day, fire and brimstone, But that one meeting a week, those first 6 weeks, I valued. One of my best friends is standing in the back. My first Narcotics Anonymous meeting this time coming back was Friday Night Recovery in Canal City in Charleston. By the way, that's where I'm from, in Dunbar. And when I came back this time, I was pissed off because I was hopeless. And when I walked in that meeting, everybody was cutting up, having fun. I thought, this is fucked up, you guys. I'm dying. Y'all having fun. And about 3 months later, I was that guy having fun, enjoying the meeting for what it was. But I got to understand that it talks about a total surrender, and I experienced it this time. I certainly know what it's like, and I am so grateful for that, because when I got here, I don't know that I wanted to get clean when I first got here. I just wanted to quit feeling like I felt inside. I finally understood that recovery was an inside job. Wasn't anything about what's out here. It was about what was in here. And I wanted what you guys had. And so I had to do what you guys do. And I got a sponsor. Wes has been part of my life. I always tell a good story about Wes. In 93, I got sent to the penitentiary, and Wes was the only one in the courtroom to support me. Hell, my wife wasn't even there. But Wes was there to tell me that someone in Narcotics Anonymous cared about me. See, that taught me a lesson from a long time ago. That's what we do here. We reach out, we help those people that are in need of help. And he was there to help me. But when I came out, I didn't stay around, and I used, and my wife at that time called him and said, come and get this son of a bitch. Get him in them meetings. So there's always been a good joke between Wes and I. I am so grateful for him. He's taught me more about love than I could ever, share with you guys. He's taught me more about humility, and he continues to teach me. And that's why I continue to rag his ass about not calling me back, and see, I'm real good friends with his sponsor too, so I always ask his sponsor, I said, Wes called you lately? Because that's what we do here. We're each other's eyes and ears, guys. Whether you like it or not, sometimes you piss people off, but you can save lives here by reaching out and saying, look, I think you're fucking up. Too many times we've done that easier, softer way where we pat someone on the back and say, oh, you're going to be all right. It's not like, what step are you on? Are you calling your sponsor? Instead, we pat them right out the damn door and then we read about them in the paper. I don't believe that's what Narcotics Anonymous taught me when I got here. I had people get in my face, tell me, you got to work steps, Rocco, or you're going to die. And I believed it. And I know that to be true today. I think sometimes, it talks about that line in the basic text, we didn't get here brimming with love, honesty, and open-mindedness. I was the most closed-minded fuck I knew, because I thought I had all the answers. And I can remember the honesty is that first principle. Wes said, "Rocco, you gotta work on honesty." And I said, "Oh, what's he know?" And so I couldn't quit from lying. I'd lie, And I was in a long-term treatment program, and there'd be a bunch of us out back smoking, and God, there's so many lies being told, And I went to Wes, and I said, Wes, I can't quit lying. He said, Rocco, do this. He says, before you open your mouth, he said, think, is it going to be a lie or is it going to be the truth? He said, if it's true, say what you need to say. If it's going to be a lie, don't say it. I was quiet for a damn long time. So I struggled with honesty. I don't know if you guys had any of that stuff yourself, but it's been a blessing to work steps because I was told a long time ago that about the spiritual awakening that we talk about in the 12th step. And I thought it was a blinding light. I thought, shit, boy, that sounds good. But, through the process of the steps, when I got to my 12th step, and I understood what it meant. It was that freedom I felt inside, that I had put away all that past and was living in the here and now and living by principles. And my life had changed so much. I have 3 children, 3 blessed children that... my girls are, I'll probably be telling my age, but when you get this old, you don't matter. My girls are 31 and 30, and I got a son that's 33. My son didn't want anything to do with me, and my girls came right back to Dad. They wanted to caretake Dad, but my son didn't. For 5 years, we talk about perseverance and persistence here. For 5 years, I called my son every 3 weeks and told him I loved him and missed him. And finally, after 5 years, he picked the phone up. And today, due to you guys and God of my understanding, I have a relationship with my son. That's what recovery's about, I believe. It's about that stuff in here. Today, I talk about with people I sponsor and with people in my network, I talk about freedom. That was the only promise y'all guys told me I could have freedom from active addiction. But, there's been times in my life when I've got freedom from self. And I want more of that. And that's the reason I continue to come around. And that's why I continue to go back through the steps. Because I want it. You know, when I get it, it's like wonderful. You get one with everything, and it's nice. And then somebody pisses on my Cheerios. You know, one of the things I'm real grateful for is service in Narcotics Anonymous. This region's been real good about allowing me to serve. You know, in a wheelchair, it takes a lot to. It takes a van to get me here, because I come with a lot of equipment. But you know, I have never not wanted to go to a meeting and never not been able to get a ride. Because we reach out here, guys. I believe we are the bomb. I really do. I believe we got love in this fellowship. That if you want to get to a meeting, you need to get to a meeting, and you reach out, that hand will be there to help you. And I believe that. And I've experienced that. And I tell people that, too, all the time. You know, one of the things I'm real grateful for is through the process of the steps, I've been able to, I live in the hood, down in the little hood I live in, and it's real funny. It's really good. I went 2 years ago and asked the elementary school down in my area if I could read to the second graders. And most of them know my criminal history because a lot of you guys don't know, I was on the TV and the newspaper for a while. You could see me at 5, 6, and 11. Yeah. They called us the modern day Bonnie and Clyde. Clyde didn't like that shit. But they know who I am and where I came from. But I remember the principal telling me that said, well, you know, we can't allow you to read to the kids because of where you've been, but you keep coming back and asking. Well, for the past 2 years, I've read to those second graders. You know, because that's part of my 9 step, guys, is giving back in my community. And I got real tickled. One of the churches in my area came and asked me if I'd speak to a bunch of young men that that were coming out of prison that they dressed at their church. And I said, I'm not Christian, by the way, you know, and my language might not be the type. He said, but you live it. And I thought, no, you know, Narcotics Anonymous taught me how to live, guys. I've actually grown up in this fellowship. Now, it took me to get in my 50s before I grew up, but I am so damn glad that I was finally willing to surrender and reach out for help and ask others to do the things I couldn't do. God, I didn't want to share this. There's one instance, there's several things that have gone on. After I got clean, 5 months clean, my federal PO violated me for a dirty urine I gave prior to getting clean. And I had to go back to prison. And, you know, I stayed clean. But the amazing part was I had worked the second step, but I hadn't worked the third step. And, you know, I had a little bit of faith, but didn't have trust. And there was a couple that are in the fellowship down home that took me to their house and fed me dinner the night before I went for my sentencing. And I remember so well what Kathy told me. She says, if you don't have trust, Rocco, and faith, I got it, okay? Right on mine. And guys, I did. That's what we do here. See, we reach out. You know, that kept me clean for those 10 months I got back to prison. Because a lot of times all I had was the literature and prayer and those words that were given to me by another addict. You know, where we realize it or not, we make differences in people's lives. And but also there's a burden, or I don't know, it's a burden, it's a responsibility as a member of Narcotics Anonymous as to how I live in my community and what I do. Because if you're recognized as someone in this fellowship, then it requires the behavior as such, I believe. You know, and I don't believe that I say one thing in the meetings and then go outside and do something else. I try to live this way of life because that's about change. There's a line in the basic text talks about recovery is an active change of ideas and attitudes. I got this thing that I keep on my wall at home, and you know what? I've had the same address for 5.5 years. You know what? That's as long as I've had an address besides a prison address. You know, but Narcotics Anonymous gave me that. There's one thing that I like to share, and I lost an 18-year-old daughter in a car accident, 18 months clean. My baby daughter. Narcotics Anonymous carried me during those times. There's people put money together, borrowed a car, and took me to my daughter's funeral. And there was a guy that walked with me. They let me cry. They let me sling snot. You know, I'm sure they got tired of my ass coming in there crying every night. But you know, they loved me. And it taught me a great lesson in love. I had just went to a wheelchair. I used to walk with prosthesis for a long time. And had it not been for Narcotics Anonymous, I think I'd have died. I don't know how I could experience the pain I felt at that time, and still do this day, without you guys as my backbone. I did the thing that was taught to me when I was told. I called my sponsor, and my sponsor didn't have that experience, but he says, I know someone that does. And that person called and shared with me how he had lost a daughter. That meant something to me, guys. I will go to the ends of the earth for Narcotics Anonymous because you guys went that distance for me. You know? And you'll continue to go that distance, you know. When I've been an asshole in service, they've loved me. Not when I've gotten, what should I say, reprimanded. But, you know, if it hadn't been for Narcotics Anonymous, I'd have never gone to my daughter's funeral. You know? And to this day, I think one of the reasons I'm here is to share with another addict that should they lose a child, that they can stay clean. I believe we all sometimes have a purpose here. My Creator wanted me to be able to walk through that. I didn't get mad at God during that time period. I believe God gave me Narcotics Anonymous so that I could walk through that pain. And you know, guys, once I walked through that, I knew that I never had to use again, because there'd be nothing that would go on my life that I'd have to give up what I'd worked for. You know, I believe the fruits of our labor here, God, I've been blessed so much in my life. The things I have today are spiritual in nature. Of course, I like my material things too, don't get me wrong. I sort of get tickled because most people know how I feel about West Virginia, those people that I'm close to. And I got a West Virginia outfit. I'm representing West Virginia University today. Yeah. You know, yeah, go Herd, right, yeah. And you know what? The bad part, I'm a University of Kentucky fan. But, you know, there's the strange thing, and I'll share a little bit more and then I'll close for the night. But I want to talk about passion. You know, Narcotics Anonymous has given me passion. I love football. You know, my meeting attendance really sucks during football season. It does. And I admit that, and yeah, I'll work on that, Wes. Yeah. Yeah. That's a writing assignment, right, Wes? But I have passion for things that we do in our fellowship, and I'll stand up today and share that. Gave me the courage. My third step is continuing in my life, gave me courage to stand up for what I believe in. Wes says I carry a torch about for people in a wheelchair, because if your doors aren't handicap accessible, your bathrooms are not handicap accessible, I'm going to say something to you. Yeah, that's my next step, guys. That's what we do. I want to leave this place a better place than when I was here. And Narcotics Anonymous and you guys, and the God of my understanding, gives me the ability to do that. You guys taught me those things. I didn't get here with that shit. Sometimes I don't like some of the things my Creator wants me to do. I called Wes one day. I said, "Didn't like it, Wes." He said, "What'd you do?" I said, "I was at the grocery store, and I ride an electric wheelchair in my community a lot, and there was this old lady carrying her groceries, and my Creator hit me in the back of the head and said, 'You better put them groceries on your chair and walk her home.'" And I'm going, "No, not me. Not this boy." I'm cruising by, and I go all the way by, and I go, finally, "Okay, God, I'll do it. Leave me alone." And I put her groceries on and took her home, and it was a wonderful conversation because I got more out of it than she could ever realize. And when we got there, she wanted to pay me, and I said, "No, ma'am, I got my pay." See, that's what we do here. See, because I got a relationship with the Creator today that I never thought possible. I learned it here. When I found out I had to share, they said I turned white. I thought, well, damn, I thought I was a white boy anyway. I guess maybe I'm a little bit more toward Native American. I've had some medical issues, and our fellowship really reaches out when you're sick, helps you get through whatever you got to get through. I am just amazed at times how we do that. I am so grateful for the people in my network, but I'm so grateful that there was a guideline finally that I could live my life by. I knew it was always fucked up. I thought, damn. My brother used to say, "Man, you're a bad apple. You're just a bad apple." I hit him with a hammer when I was 6. Yeah, my mom whooped my ass with a switch on that one. And he said, and my brother's still alive. He lives up in Ohio. He was a drill instructor in the Marine Corps. He retired after 30 years. And he actually today tells me he loves me. That's what I got here. Guys, you can talk about whatever you want, but what I got was the love I feel in my heart for others, the empathy I feel when a newcomer walks in the room and tells me how bad they're feeling and what life is like. See, that's what grips my heart. That's what will keep me clean another day. We've recently lost a few people around that came around their fellowship, and I thought about that misery they felt prior to dying. I don't want that, guys. You guys said I didn't have to have that, and I don't. Today I got freedom, man, a wonderful freedom I never thought possible. I guess I'm done because God told me and smacked me and said, "You're done." There's always one thing I like to read out of our basic text when I finish up. Somebody taught me about this a long time ago. They did it, and they're no longer here and no longer alive, and they died in their disease. But they taught me some things while they were here. And I always like to remember him by reading this. It's a paragraph out of fifth tradition. It says, "What is our message? The message is that any addict can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. Our message is hope and the promise of freedom. When all is said and done, our primary purpose can only be to carry the message to the addict who still suffers, because that is all we have to give. Guys, I'm that addict, that any addict. I stopped using, I lost the desire to use, and I continue to find a new way to live. I live the promise of hope. It's there. And the freedom I feel you guys gave me. Thank you.